Hello class, welcome to Lecture 2. In this lecture, we are going to cover the pathophysiology of PKU. Phenylalanine is an essential amino acid that is obtained either through consumption of foods in the diet or through proteolysis, which is the breakdown of proteins. Phenylalanine is crucial for protein synthesis and the synthesis of a non-essential amino acid called tyrosine, as well as the derivatives that come from tyrosine. The metabolic pathway of phenylalanine, which we will see in full detail in just a few slides, involves the hydroxylation of phenylalanine to tyrosine by the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase in the presence of the cofactor tetrahydrobiopterin, or BH4, and oxygen. In individuals with PKU, there is a genetic defect in the gene that carries phenylalanine hydroxylase, causing phenylalanine not to be broken down, which can lead to toxic levels of phenylalanine in the blood. Tyrosine is a non-essential amino acid, meaning the body can synthesize it within the body, or it can be made from an essential amino acid consumed in the diet. Tyrosine is specifically derived from the essential amino acid phenylalanine. Tyrosine is a necessary component for several key neurotransmitters, including dopamine, epinephrine, and norepinephrine. It is also necessary in the production of melanin, which is the pigment in hair and skin responsible for color. Tyrosine aids in the function of organs producing and regulating hormones, including adrenal, thyroid, and pituitary glands. Lastly, tyrosine is seen in the structure of almost every protein in our bodies. In individuals with PKU, we know there is a defect in PAH, so phenylalanine is not adequately converted to tyrosine. This defect in the metabolism of phenylalanine leads to inadequate levels of epinephrine, norepinephrine, and dopamine, as well as melanin, in these individuals. Tetrahydrobiopterin, or BH4, is a natural substance found in the body and is an essential cofactor that is necessary for proper activity of phenylalanine. BH4 is involved in the hydroxylation of aromatic amino acids. In order for phenylalanine to properly be converted into tyrosine, BH4 must be present. This slide combines the components we have just reviewed and shows how they work together to form the metabolism of phenylalanine. This process occurs mainly in the liver, but can also occur in the kidneys. Phenylalanine is obtained from either an individual's diet or endogenous proteolysis and is then hydroxylated by the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase in order to make tyrosine. This is the enzyme that is deficient in individuals with PKU. This diagram also includes alternative pathways in which phenylalanine is metabolized. One of the main ones is the transamination to phenylpyruvate and decarboxylation in order to be synthesized to phenylethylamine. PKU is inherited when both the mother and father pass on copies of the defective PAH gene to their child. This disease is autosomal recessive, which means the parents can't be carriers but not have PKU themselves. In instances where only one parent is a carrier of the defective PAH gene, it will be possible for them to pass the gene on to their child. But the child will not be at risk for having PKU, because in order for a child to show signs of PKU, both parents would have to pass on the defective gene to their offspring in order for PKU to be expressed in the child. Most often, we see children with PKU who have parents who were unaware that they were ever carriers for this disease. Genetic mutation is the only cause of PKU. In individuals with PKU, this genetic defect leads to a deficiency of the enzyme phenylalanine hydroxylase that is essential in the process of metabolizing phenylalanine. Phenylalanine hydroxylase is a liver enzyme encoded by the PAH gene. Its role is to convert phenylalanine to tyrosine in the presence of oxygen and BH4. When the body does not have enough phenylalanine hydroxylase, phenylalanine does not undergo appropriate conversion, which leads to an accumulation of phenylalanine and its metabolites at toxic levels in tissues and body fluids. PKU can be mild, moderate, or severe, depending on the level of deficiency in each child. This explains why there are some people who can tolerate dietary phenylalanine at higher doses than others. Since the only way phenylalanine enters the body is through food or proteolysis, when exposed to dietary phenylalanine, serum levels directly reflect its intake, and depending on the level of deficiency, serum levels will elevate at their own rate. This slide shows the most common and impactful symptoms that are associated with the different blood levels we see in patients with PKU. The varying levels of phenylalanine concentration in the blood is what leads to many of the presenting signs and symptoms in individuals with PKU. The appropriate range for blood phenylalanine concentration in a healthy person is less than 2 milligrams per deciliter. For a person with PKU, keeping the levels between 2 to 6 milligrams per deciliter is desired. Blood phenylalanine concentration greater than 20 milligrams is associated with IQ loss. We know one of the greatest signs and symptoms of PKU is neurological deficit. So with continued uncontrolled PKU and high levels of blood phenylalanine concentration, IQ loss is very common. When blood phenylalanine concentration is between 6 and 10 milligrams, patients present with subtle cognitive deficits. In individuals with PKU, tyrosine levels are typically less than 3 milligrams. Newborns do not show signs and symptoms initially at birth. These will develop within a few months of no treatment for PKU. These next two slides show results that come from uncontrolled phenylalanine levels in the body. These uncontrolled levels can come from either lack of or little adherence to treatment or unawareness of diagnosis. High phenylalanine levels are associated with DNA, protein, and lipid damage. So these are some of the key results in individuals with uncontrolled phenylalanine levels. We also see a decrease in the antioxidant defenses in the body. As we have touched on in the previous module, lack of control of PKU and control of phenylalanine levels can lead to intellectual disability and delayed development in these children. This is a reason early diagnosis and adherence to the low phenylalanine diet are important in children. Uncontrolled levels of phenylalanine can also result in behavioral, emotional, and social problems in those with PKU. These issues can further develop into psychiatric disorders. Children may also develop neurological problems that may include seizures. They may also present with hyperactivity. This slide also shows results of uncontrolled phenylalanine levels, and the ones listed here are more of the physical results we see in individuals with PKU. These results include decreased bone strength and skin rashes such as eczema. Children will present with a musty odor in the breath, skin, or urine due to too much phenylalanine in the body. Like we talked about earlier in this module, PKU results in a decrease in the amount of phenylalanine being converted to tyrosine. Tyrosine is responsible for melanin, which is the pigment responsible for skin and hair color. Because of the decrease in melanin levels, those with PKU often present with fair skin and blue eyes. Another physical result of uncontrolled phenylalanine levels is an abnormally small head, which is referred to as microcephaly. Now it's time to check your understanding of the information you learned in this module. Refer back to the case study presented in both Module 1 and under the case study section in our portfolio. Then answer the following questions to apply what you have just learned about PKU. Question 1 asks, how do you think Sadie came to acquire PKU? Question 2 asks, what signs and symptoms has Sadie begun to exhibit? Here are the references that we utilized to create this lecture. This concludes Lecture 2 material.